Hey everybody, Casey Cease here with Lucid Books, and I'm here with my friend Pastor Charlie Garrison. Charlie is one of our Lucid Books authors, and he's just recently released a children's book. Charlie, why don't you just take a few moments and tell us about yourself, introduce yourself to us.
Yeah. My first off, I'm a husband, father, um, love Jesus, but interestingly, that wasn't always how it was for me. My early on in as I was a teenager and young adult, really didn't want anything to do with any of that, and what I wanted to do was be an actor, um, and that led me to some pretty interesting spots. One of them was actually volunteering in children's ministry at my friend's church. And he was like, "Hey, dude, I got a gig kind of thing." And I'm like, "All right, sweet, I'm in." It's 8 a.m. Sunday morning, and I'm like, "Okay, let's go." And so I got to go and participate in children's ministry for a good season there, and that actually ended up leading to another opportunity in children's ministry, leading a whole program at a church, which, by the way, I still wasn't even a Christ follower. And it's kind of a funny thing to be doing. And but through that, like, I really, honestly, I learned a lot about Jesus, having to teach kids about him, and ended up God using that in like a crazy way to begin his relationship and pursuit of me. And so I always have had this like really soft spot in my heart for children's ministry. And when I did come to faith and start going to church and stuff, I was serving in kids ministry. That was the first thing I actually stepped into to serve. And so now I'm the lead pastor of our church, and still have that. I still have that like desire to see kids and their parents kind of minds blown with the gospel through children's ministry.
So through that experience in children's ministry, I'm guessing that's ultimately what led you to write your book. What was kind of the journey to writing your book?
Yeah, so my I've always had that, right, that spot in my heart for kids and youth, and we did this series at church where it was called Epic, and my church basically we went through all these Bible stories that you kind of forget to go through as an adult, David and Goliath, Noah's Ark, that kind of stuff that almost seems like kids stories. And we went through and we just tied them all back to Jesus. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, this would be really cool to do this as a book, like for kids. And it was a friend of mine that said, like, dude, that's you, that's who you are. Like, you should totally do that. And several other people were really affirming in that. And so it's kind of weird to be like a lead pastor writing a children's book, and it doesn't usually form that way. And so I had some insecurities there at first, but just encouragement from other people saying like, no, this is your church. This is a huge blessing to parents and to kids to have somebody do this. So,
So your book is called Epic. Talk to us about that a little bit. Tell us about your book.
yeah. So the book is called Epic. It's 12 Bible stories, kind of some of the traditional ones, and of creation and sin entering the world, and Daniel in the lion's den, David and Goliath, Jonah and the big fish, and the whole purpose of it is to show that through this whole thing that there's one central character, and that's Jesus. That all these stories are ultimately pointing to him, and so I felt like having my own kids and reading them these Bible stories, I was always having to kind of add that in on each of these little books that we would read. And so thought, man, I want to do that. I want to do that, so when people read the book, that Jesus is tied in there, right there in the story they're reading. So it's 12 different stories that are kind of on this journey, this epic, if you will, leading to the one main character, Jesus.
So what are some common misunderstandings around kids being able to understand Bible stories and things like that? Because I mean, you're writing a story targeting children, right, and also their
Yeah.
families. But what are some common misunderstandings surrounding that?
Well, I think that, well, in terms of misunderstandings, I think I think that we probably misunderstand that they can handle a little bit more than we give them. They can understand Noah's Ark as its own story, but if you tie that to Jesus, like they can grasp that even at a young age, even at 5 and 6 years old, they can grasp it more than we think they can. So, and then honestly, like I think another misconception is that even that adults understand how this all works together. And so I wrote the book for kids, understanding that their parents are going to be reading it. And so there was the hope in all of that is to say, man, we can take this idea of one story that seems separate and really show that there's that there's a bigger picture here.
Well, with that in mind, what are you hoping the takeaway? Not only, I mean, let's be honest, these children's books are good for adults also, right? And older siblings
totally.
who are reading them too. But what are you hoping the reader will experience? And I love what you said before when, before you were a believer, you were doing the gig, the children's ministry gig. But when you came to faith, you really wanted children and their families' mind to be blown by the gospel. And with the stories and the illustrations and that you've pulled together for this book, man, what do you want? What do you want your reader? I mean, it seems like you've already told us what you want your reader to experience, but put some more flesh on the skeleton for us for that.
Yeah. So the way that this is just a general way that I approach like children's ministry or sharing the gospel with kids. I love the idea of sharing the gospel with kids and parents together. The way I look at it is, and I just have said this for a long time, is that it's like Shrek, but it's about Jesus, right? Like you can watch movies like that and the parents love it and are laughing about something. They're getting something out of it and the kids are getting something too.
Yeah.
And I think my hope is that parents would walk away with like some aha moments and some little nuggets to be able to point things towards Jesus on their own. They could do it from the book, but at some point, when you're dealing with something that's not in the book, how can you tie that back to Jesus? And so that's my hope for the parents. For the kids, it's just the hope is that they have a resource that does that. Because I was just finding there wasn't a lot out there that kind of tied it in all together. So a few good things, but so that's kind of my hope for the end of it.
So then with that, like, how's this book going to be most helpful? Like, someone's watching this, they're like, hey, who's this Pastor Charlie guy? This book sounds interesting. I want to go get it. How's it going to help them? How's it going to help your reader? Yeah,
well, I think first of all, the one thing that was really important to me was that the illustrations were like amazing, and they are. And so I'm super thankful for Andrew, the illustrator, just did an amazing job on that. And so it's going to grab attention of kids, and I think kids walking away with that. I say walking away, but they're having an understanding that the Bible is so much more than just this random collection of stories, but that it's all one part of one gospel leading to Jesus. So,
I love it, man. So, what do you love about working with Lucid?
I'll tell you what. Because here's the thing: I have never written a book before, and so. I've said this only in private to people, but to be really honest, if I would have taken this and just self-published it, a lot of my friends are like, why don't you just self-publish? If I would have taken this and done that, I wouldn't be super proud of it. Let me just put it that way. It would have been, it's hard. It's a lot of work. And so Lucid.
It's 16 phases, man. That's what authors don't understand. We have 16 phases to publish a book, man. So.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, like having it broken down into bite-sized chunks is the key. Because if they gave me a binder, here's what you need to do to write a book, I just wouldn't have done it. Right. Because it's just overwhelming. But having like people with you along the way, giving you these bite-sized pieces, even still to this day, I have like a to-do list that I got to get to, and I get reminded that, hey, don't forget to do this. Super, super helpful. And having people that know what they're talking about and that are professionals in this industry, whereas like I don't need to be a professional in the publishing industry.
You're
I'm
a pastor, man. That's it.
And so that partnership has been super helpful.
Well, I know our team has loved working with you, man, and it's been a lot of fun. And you know, it's always fun with the children's book authors because there's this whimsy that still sticks with children's book authors because they have a passion to reach kiddos. Let me ask you this: if someone wanted you to come speak, I mean, I know you're lead pastor and they let you preach in big church now, but what type of groups would you find yourself comfortable going to speak to?
Well, I mean, in terms of comfort, that any.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I feel like I can run the gamut of that. But ideal situation is I feel like if I can get kids and parents in the same room, that and I'm not saying this like in a boastful manner. I just know like that's an area I thrive in. Because I can be funny for the parents in a way that the kids probably won't get, but like the content for the kids is there too. And so that is like that's kind of what even I'm focusing on as I'm trying to kind of get the book out there a little bit, is how can I utilize this unique kind of setting, or try to create this unique setting for kids and parents rather than kids being separate from parents and I'll go talk to the kids and I'll go talk to the parents. But it'd be really the best for me would be to have them together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. So if you could have any superpower, now you can't say all of them or the one that gives you all of them, but what superpower would it be?
Man, I want to say to read people's minds, except I'm not sure I want to know what people are thinking. That's really frightening to me to think of that.
It is, man. Absolutely.
I don't know. I think I would want to be able to use my eyes to shoot lasers.
Yeah.
I feel like flight is the one you would say the most, but
right.
Like I just want to be able to, when I see people doing that, it's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Like just destroy something by looking at it a certain way.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's
it's
awesome. Yeah. You just have to be careful not to give your kids or your wife the wrong look or
I know.
one of your deacons,
a lot of responsibility.
Man. There's a lot of
but
responsibility.
With great power comes great responsibility, right?
Absolutely true, man. So, hey, how can people find you online? Where can they connect with you?
On Instagram, it's Charles Wesley Garrison, and then Facebook, Charlie Garrison, and I'm pretty sure I have a MySpace account floating out there somewhere. From
MySpace.
It's really relevant.
I found my Zanga blog, my first blog from like 2002, and they said, "Would you like to download this for WordPress?" Because I guess they're not doing it anymore, and so I did. I downloaded it, so I can't wait to go load it somewhere secret and read all of my musings as a 24-year-old.
Oh man, it's embarrassing to do that. I did that recently. I read my blogs from like 10 years ago. I'm like, who was this? Did I really write that?
Yeah.
So just Instagram and Facebook for me at this point.
Awesome, man. Well, Charlie, thanks so much, and we look forward to what else God leads you to create, man. And everybody watching this, you can go check out Epic on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, and all of your online book providers. So, Charlie, thanks for stopping by, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. See ya.